Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're heading into the really fascinating, maybe surprisingly complex world of Japanese law enforcement.
Mm.
We're taking a close look at the Tokyo Metropolitan Police Department's Public Security Bureau, the PSB.
Yeah, and we've got some great sources here. They really detail the PSB, from its history, how it started, right up to its structure now, and some pretty major cases it's handled. It's a good chance to understand an agency that, well, mostly operates out of the public eye.
Absolutely. So our goal today is really to get a handle on the role, the functions of this key part of the Tokyo police. And just to kick things off, think about this. In one city, Tokyo, you've got a police bureau with over 2,000 officers just focused on public security.
Right.
That scale alone tells you they're dealing with some pretty serious stuff. So, okay, let's dive in.
Right.
What exactly is the PSB?
Okay, so basically, it's a bureau within the Tokyo Metropolitan Police Department.
Yeah.
Its specific job is maintaining public security, but just within the Tokyo metropolis.
Right.
And what's really interesting is that the TMPD actually has a dedicated bureau for this. Most other prefectural police forces in Japan, they tend to handle security police stuff through like sections or divisions within a bigger security department. So Tokyo's setup is, well, kind of unique.
Huh? Interesting. So, why does Tokyo have this dedicated bureau when others don't? Any reason for that?
Well, it seems like it comes down to the TMPD's history. They've had this long, close working relationship with the Japanese National Police Agency.
Ah.
And since they're both right there in the capital, that closeness probably led to a more specialized, more integrated way of handling national security stuff within Tokyo.
That makes a lot of sense, yeah. Proximity helps. No, okay, when people hear Public Security Bureau, some might immediately think, FBI in the US or something similar. Is the PSB like that?
Yeah, that's a really important point to clarify. The PSB isn't primarily looking at general crime, like bank robberies or whatever. Yeah. Its job is really centered on threats to national security. So actually, a better comparison might be something like the special branches you find in the UK and Commonwealth Police Force.
Right.
Those agencies focus specifically on things like counterterrorism, espionage, politically motivated crime, not everyday policing.
Okay, got it. So the focus is safeguarding the state, not general law enforcement. That's key. So let's trace how this bureau came about. What are its origins? How did it evolve?
Okay, so its roots go back to right after World War II. December 1945, actually. They set up the security division within the Tokyo Metropolitan Police. That was kind of the first step in dealing with the whole post-war security situation.
Right after the war. Okay, and then?
Then just a couple of months later, February 46, they renamed it the Public Security Division.
Yeah.
So already broadening its scope a bit. But a really big change came in April 1952.
What happened then?
They created two separate security departments. The first security department was in charge of the TMPD's riot police units. Really important for keeping public order. Yeah, definitely.
And the second security department was focused on the intelligence side, gathering and analyzing security info. So you see this split early on between like the operational side and the intelligence side.
Interesting. Splitting those functions quite early, what came next?
The names changed again in April 1957. Security Department 1, Security Department 2, and the Reserve became the Security Department, the Public Security Department, and the Riot Police. So that really cemented the Public Security Department, the PSB, as its own thing.
Okay.
Now, if we fast forward quite a bit to the period after 9/11.
Right, yeah, that changed everything for security agencies worldwide.
Exactly. So in 2002, the PSB went through a pretty major reorganization. They added 3 new intelligence sections. This was clearly about boosting their ability to handle the kind of new threats that everyone was worried about post 9/11. But they weren't done tweaking it.
Okay, so what's happened more recently? Well, just in March 2021, they finished another big reorganization. And this time, it included setting up dedicated intelligence units specifically focused on China and North Korea.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, they actually doubled the number of those units to 4, and they put about 30 more officers into those areas. So that really tells you something about the current geopolitical focus and intelligence priorities.
It certainly does. Very clear priorities there. And I think I read there were even more changes coming soon.
That's right. By April 2025, the plan is to create a new unit. It's going to be called the No. 3 Public Safety Unit, and its job will be specifically tackling the growing concern about lone wolf terrorism.
Ah, okay.
And interestingly, to do this, they're going to merge and rename some of the current public safety sections, probably to, streamline things for that specific threat. Also, gathering info on loan offenders is being moved out of the General Affairs Division and into this reorganized public security section.
Mm.
Seems like they want a more focused approach there.
It really shows the PSB is, well, dynamic, constantly adapting. Okay, let's talk about some actual cases. What kind of work have they been involved in that highlights what they do?
The sources mentioned several big ones. Probably one of the most well-known was the PSB's huge mobilization after the Tokyo subway sarin attack. They investigated all the Alam Shinrikyo facilities.
Right, that was horrific, a defining moment.
Absolutely. And that event really tested their capabilities, showed why you need a strong public security body to handle, domestic extremist threats like that.
Definitely.
And after that, the PSB also investigated a pretty worrying case where an ASIM Rikyu member had actually gotten into the Japan Maritime Self-Defense Force and leaked sensitive military info.
Wow.
Yeah, so that showed how these groups might try to get access to state secrets. Counterinfiltration became really important.
And the Alam Shinrikyo issues went beyond just those direct attacks, too, didn't they?
Oh, yeah. The PSB was also the main agency looking into reports that AWIM had somehow gotten a list of 3,000 Honda executives and sensitive data from government ministries, critical infrastructure, apparently through software they'd developed.
That's incredible, blurring the lines into cyber threats early on. For someone listening who might not know Aom Shinrikyo well, you can definitely see parallels with how extremist groups operate and use technology today, can't you?
That's a very good point. These aren't just historical footnotes. Okay, moving away from OYM, what other kinds of cases has the PSB handled?
Right.
Well, there have been several involving suspected espionage. For instance, there was a case where they couldn't actually catch a suspected Russian SVR agent. That's Russia's foreign intelligence service.
Okay.
This person had apparently been operating in Japan since the 60s, using a fake Japanese identity, got a passport, and just slipped away.
Right.
It really shows how tough counterespionage can be.
Yeah, a reminder that these things are constantly happening.
And another one, in 2002, involved an ex-Japanese Air Self-Defense Forces warrant officer. He was investigated for supposedly giving military secrets to a Russian GRU operative. That's their military intelligence. So again, protecting defense secrets is a constant job.
I also saw a mention of investigations into anti-war activists.
Yes, that was in 2004. The PSB investigated 3 activists from a group called Tachikawa Jitai Kanchi Tentamura. It was about anti-war activities after they apparently illegally entered an SDF housing complex. Now, it's worth noting, Amnesty International called them prisoners of conscience.
Okay.
It highlights the kind of complexities and debates that can come up when public security laws intersect with political expression. We're just reporting what the sources say here.
Understood. Important context. Any other examples that show the PSB's range?
Let's see. In 2008, PSB officers helped arrest a former official from CIO Japan's main intelligence agency who was accused of giving classified info to someone at the Russian embassy.
Another counter-espionage case, then.
Exactly. And more recently, 2020, they investigated a South Korean man in Tokyo. He was accused of hacking the website for Kongreon, which is the main organization for North Korean residents in Japan, and also the Korean News Service. So that shows their work on cyber threats with international links.
It really seems the digital world is a huge focus now.
Absolutely. And actually, going back a bit to 1998, they found some pretty sophisticated radios at a safe house used by the JRCL Revolutionary Marxist faction.
Huh.
These radios could have let outsiders listen in on police communications. So, after finding that vulnerability, the PSB actually reorganized its own communications network to make it more secure. Shows they adapt their own tech, too.
Right, protecting their own operations. Now, there was also a report from 2014 about surveillance.
Yes, a leaked report surfaced in 2014.
Huh.
It indicated that PSB officers were reportedly carrying out covert surveillance on Muslim residents in the greater Tokyo area. Again, just presenting that as it was reported in the sources.
Got it. And on a totally different note, they made a promotional video. That surprised me.
Huh? Yeah, that's right. December 2022. They put out this promotional video starring the actress Rina Ninden, who also goes by Elaine London.
Oh, okay.
The whole point was to raise public awareness about the dangers of, specifically, foreign-backed corporate espionage.
A promotional video with a celebrity. That's, well, it's an interesting tactic for a public security agency, isn't it? What does it suggest about how they want to engage with the public, maybe?
Yeah, it certainly suggests they want to be a bit more visible, perhaps, or at least educate people about threats that maybe aren't so obvious, like corporate spying. Okay, so let's maybe get into the nitty-gritty of the organization itself. How is the PSB actually structured?
Right. Let's look inside.
Okay, so it's got a pretty detailed structure. You have 4 deputy managers handling the internal admin side, things like general affairs, accounts, public security planning, and ordinances.
Okay, the indoor service, as they call it.
Exactly. And then below them, there are 8 other deputy managers who are directly in charge of the actual public security investigations.
8 investigation managers. What do they each cover?
Well, the 5th and 6th deputy managers, their main job is counterterrorism investigations. The 1st through 4th deputy managers handle investigations into all the other public security areas. And reporting up to these managers are the different public security divisions.
And each division has its own focus.
Precisely. The 1st Public Security Division, they mainly focus on left-wing radical groups. The 2nd Division also deals with left-wing groups, but especially looking at labor-related unrest.
Okay.
The 3rd Division is all about right-wing groups. And the 4th Division handles specially assigned affairs, basically. Anything that doesn't fit neatly into the other 3.
Makes sense. What about the foreign intelligence side?
Right. They have 4 foreign affairs divisions, and each one covers a specific part of the world. 1st Foreign Affairs is mostly Europe counterintelligence, investigations related to that region.
Okay.
2nd Foreign Affairs covers Asia, including China. 3rd Foreign Affairs is responsible for North Korea. And interestingly, before a shuffle in 2019, this division also handled counterterrorism.
Ah, so that shifted.
Yeah. And finally, the 4th Foreign Affairs Division deals with international terrorism investigations and counterintelligence. So you can see it's a very geographic focus for those threats.
Very targeted. What about boots on the ground, mobile units?
Yep, they have the Public Security Mobile Investigation Unit. Their job is to do the initial investigations across the board, criminal stuff, espionage, terrorism cases. They jump on things first.
Right.
And that unit also includes a specialized NBC terrorist investigation unit. So they're prepared for incidents involving nuclear, biological, or chemical agents too.
Sounds like a very specialized, highly trained part of the PSB.
Definitely. And people who want to become PSB officers, they get specialized training at the National Police Academy. A lot of focus on intelligence gathering techniques. That's really central to what they do.
And we actually know some names of people who've headed the PSB.
Yeah. The sources name a few known heads: Shigeo Ito, Masuo Okamura, and Norikyo Hayashi.
It's really fascinating getting this kind of look inside an organization that, like you said, usually operates behind the scenes. So as we kind of process all this, let's connect it back. Why should someone listening, someone maybe not in law enforcement or IR, care about the Tokyo PSB?
Well, in the world we live in now, everything's so interconnected. Understanding how different countries handle their security challenges is, I think, pretty vital. The stuff the PSB focuses on, counterterrorism, spying, domestic extremism, these aren't just Japanese problems, right?
No, absolutely not.
They're global concerns. And how the PSB has changed over time, responding to things like 9/11 or focusing more on China and North Korea, that mirrors trends you see in lots of Western countries dealing with similar issues, especially around tech and cyber threats.
That's a great point. It's a global context.
Exactly. And plus, the PSB's own story, its history, its reorganizations. It reflects the shifting geopolitics and the kinds of domestic threats Japan has faced and still faces. So looking at their journey gives us insights into those bigger shifts in global security and how police and security agencies everywhere are trying to adapt.
Right.
And the steps they're taking now, like setting up units for specific countries or for threats like lone wolves or corporate espionage, those are interesting case studies for how other places might tackle similar challenges.
It really does provide a useful lens for looking at global security. Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the main thing we should take away about the PSB?
I think the core takeaway is this. The PSB is a highly specialized part of the Tokyo Police. Its main job is protecting Japan's national security. It does that through intelligence gathering and investigating specific threats, things that are generally outside normal criminal police work.
Right. Distinct mission. And finally, maybe a thought for you, the listener, to mull over. When you look at how the PSB keeps evolving, how it's proactively tackling new threats like lone wolf attacks and foreign-backed corporate spying, what does that suggest more broadly about how law enforcement everywhere might need to adapt? How do they stay ahead in this incredibly complex, interconnected world we're in?
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it?
It really is, something with far-reaching consequences. Well, thanks for joining us for this Duck Dive.